Did you know that many of the safety laws that protect US today were written in the aftermath of terrible disasters? We remember some of them, like the Triangle Shirtwaist factory fire. But others, some of the most horrific, have been deliberately erased from our history. This is the story of one of them. Imagine America at its industrial peak. In a bustling city, a massive facility operated around the clock, a symbol of progress and prosperity. It employed thousands of immigrants seeking a new life, locals providing for their families. Entire communities depended on the wages earned within its walls. But beneath the surface of this economic engine, a catastrophe was brewing. The warnings were clear as day. Engineers repeatedly flagged unstable systems and critical design flaws. Workers on the factory floor constantly complained about overheating machinery and a lack of proper ventilation. Most chillingly, fire exits were often locked or blocked, a cynical measure by management to prevent employees from stealing materials. Every single warning was ignored. Profit was more important than people. Then, one fateful night, the inevitable happened. A single, seemingly minor malfunction in a piece of equipment triggered a devastating chain reaction. Explosions began to rip through the building, one after another, each more powerful than the last. The facility, filled with flammable materials and lacking any real safety measures, turned into an inferno. The fire spread with terrifying speed, faster than anyone could run. Workers found themselves trapped behind the very doors that were supposed to be their escape routes. On the upper floors, faced with an impossible choice, some people jumped from windows to escape the consuming flames. The scene was pure chaos and horror. Firefighters arrived on the scene with remarkable speed, but they were met with a nightmare. The building itself was a death trap. Its labyrinthine layout, combined with the blocked exits and the raging fires, made any rescue attempt nearly impossible. They could hear the cries for help from inside, but they were powerless to reach most of the victims. By the time the sun rose the next morning, the full scale of the tragedy was revealed. The once proud factory was a smoldering ruin. In the inside, hundreds of workers were dead. The air hung heavy with smoke and grief. The public reaction was immediate and furious. Newspapers, in a time before our modern media landscape, ran horrifying images and first-hand accounts on their front pages. The images of the charred building and the stories of those who perished shocked the nation to its core. Protests erupted in cities across the country. The families of the victims, heartbroken and enraged, marched in the streets, demanding justice and accountability. They wanted the world to know what had happened to their loved ones and who was responsible for their deaths. But while the public cried out for justice, powerful interests moved swiftly and silently behind the scenes. The company's owners and executives deployed a team of skilled lawyers to control the narrative. They worked to suppress the story, to manage the fallout. The official casualty numbers were mysteriously and methodically reduced. The blame was shifted away from management's negligence and onto the workers themselves, or even presented as a tragic, unavoidable accident. In the end, despite overwhelming evidence of criminal neglect, the executives who presided over this death trap walked free. Not a single one faced any real consequences. Yet, something had changed. The sheer horror of the event, even with the suppressed details, was too great to be entirely ignored. The disaster had exposed a fatal flaw in the nation's conscience. It forced lawmakers to act. This single tragedy became the catalyst for a sweeping overhaul of American labor laws. New, stricter building codes were written. Mandatory workplace inspections became the law of the land. The safety regulations that we often take for granted today, things like clearly marked exits, fire suppression systems, and safe operating procedures, were born from this fire. America, as a nation, moved forward. But the victims who paid the ultimate price for this progress were buried quietly. Their names, once shouted in protest, began to fade from memory. Their individual stories of hope, struggle, and terror were lost. The disaster itself was condensed, shortened into a single, sterile paragraph in old history books if it was mentioned at all. The lessons were learned, and the laws survived. But the people who taught us those lessons with their lives were forgotten. It's a stark reminder that progress often comes at a cost, and that we have a duty to remember the names of those who paid it. Thank you for watching. If you found this story important, please consider subscribing for more forgotten histories.